Her nightmare broke reality. The moment she screamed, the sky split like glass, and the world began to bleed her dreams into waking life. It happened on the 12th night of no sleep. Not real sleep, just that thin, haunted dozing where dreams slip in sideways and leave claw marks behind. Maren had been keeping herself awake for days, afraid of what waited when her eyes closed. But exhaustion is a slow, brutal hunter, and it always wins in the end. She was in her bed when it came, half under the sheets, eyes heavy, sweat soaking her shirt. The dream began the same as always. The long hallway, the flickering lights, the door at the end pulsing like a heartbeat. Behind it, something moved. Something watched. But this time she didn't run. She screamed. A scream torn from the deepest pit of her lungs. A sound full of fear and fury and despair. It echoed, not just in the dream but beyond it. She felt it crash through her chest, tear through the walls and burst through the sky like a bullet through glass. She sat bolt upright, and the world shifted. Above her the ceiling cracked, not with age or pressure, but like it was pretending to be a ceiling. Behind it, stars that moved too fast. Shapes that shouldn't exist. The window bent inward, not broken by wind or storm, but by something imaginary forcing its way into existence. Outside the moon was bleeding. She ran. Out onto the street barefoot, heart hammering. But the neighborhood wasn't the same. Houses bent at wrong angles. A mailbox was on fire, but the flames were blue and cold. A child stood on the sidewalk smiling too wide holding a balloon made of teeth. This was her dreamscape. It had always lived in her head. Now it was spilling into the world. She passed a tree that whispered her name in her father's voice. A car melted like wax into the pavement. Her shadow moved in the wrong direction, and kept walking after she stopped. Reality had no anchor now. No rules. The sky above swirled with colors that didn't exist in the human spectrum. Memories took physical form. Her old dog bounded past, tail wagging and half-transparent. Her childhood bedroom door stood in the middle of the road, slightly ajar. She wanted to run from it all, but she knew it wouldn't stop. Not unless she stopped it. She remembered what the dream always warned her. Don't open the door. And she never had. Until now. She walked toward the door, her door, set impossibly in the center of the intersection. Around her, people screamed or gibbered or danced in circles. Some had already been caught in their own dream bleed. She saw a man with angel wings fighting invisible demons. A woman sobbing into a mirror that showed a different face. This was her doing. The door creaked as she touched it. On the other side, the hallway, the flickering lights, the pulsing heart of the nightmare. This time she stepped through. The thing that had watched her for years stood there, tall and stitched together from every fear she'd ever buried. It grinned with a mouthful of locks. I'm real now, it whispered. Thanks to you. Maren nodded. Then I can end you here. It lunged, but she didn't flinch. She remembered something the dreams always forgot. You can't be hurt by your own mind if you take control. She grabbed the shape of fear. It screamed. She screamed louder. Around them the world shook. The dream bled in reverse, sucked back like smoke into her chest. She woke up on the pavement. The world was normal. Or at least it looked like it. The sky was whole. The people untouched. No door, no melting cars, no whispering trees. But every now and then when the sun hits the clouds just right, she sees a crack in the sky. And she remembers. The nightmare is still there. Maren didn't speak for days after it happened. People found her lying in the street at dawn, barefoot and dazed, with dried blood on her palms and glass in her hair. They asked questions. She gave answers, just not true ones. Fainting spell. Stress. Insomnia. A vivid dream. She watched their faces as they nodded politely, already deciding she was cracked too. Not just the sky. But Maren knew what she had seen. What she had fought. And she knew it hadn't ended. Because the cracks remained. Tiny ones. Subtle. Like glitches in a simulation. A reflection that blinked before she did. A crow hovering too long midair. A phone ringing a number she hadn't saved in years. Her sister's old number. Her dead sister. At night the dreams returned, no longer trapped. They didn't just visit her in sleep. They lingered. The walls would whisper. Her coffee would turn to ink. Words on pages rearranged themselves to form apologies from things that shouldn't know how to write. Her own name began to feel like a question. Still, she pretended. She smiled at neighbors. She answered emails. She folded laundry, knowing the shadows beneath the sheets were watching. Then one morning she heard a knock on her door. 3 soft raps. Too soft. Like the sound was inside her ears. She opened it. No one was there. Only a note. We remember you. The door is not closed. Come back before the cracks widen. Her hands trembled. The world around her was still, too still. Like reality was holding its breath. The cracks weren't spreading just because of her. They were seeking her, drawing her back, like a loop that hadn't finished. That night she didn't resist sleep. She let the dream take her. This time she found herself not in the hallway, but in a city made entirely of mirrors. Every surface reflected different versions of her. Laughing, screaming, rotting, flying. Some versions weren't her at all, just things that wore her skin like a borrowed coat. A figure stood at the center of it all. A man. Or a shadow. The same thing she faced before, now reshaped. Calm. Collected. No longer stitched together. Now solid. You brought me into the world, it said, voice like shattering icicles. But you didn't finish the birth. Maren clenched her fists. Then let's finish it now. It smiled. Good. The real nightmare is just beginning. Maren stood before it. The creature shaped from her fears, once chaotic, now sleek and sharpened like a blade. It radiated calm horror. The kind that doesn't chase you but waits for you to understand. The world thinks you're awake, it said. But you never left the dream. The words struck like cold steel. She looked around. The mirrored city didn't shimmer anymore. It watched. Towers of glass stretched up into a sky filled with eyes. Behind every reflection, things moved. Faceless figures, crawling versions of herself, some trapped and pounding at the inside of the mirror, some grinning. No, she whispered. I woke up. I felt the pavement. I smelled the morning air. It stepped closer. You woke up into your own mind's illusion. Reality bled into your dream, but the wound was two-way. Now dream bleeds into reality, and reality bleeds into dream. Then where am I? The thing paused. You are in both. You are the crack. That word again. Crack. She turned, and one of the mirrored buildings fractured, spiderweb lines across its surface. The sound wasn't glass, it was bone. The pieces fell, and from the space behind them came a wind that reeked of memory. From it stepped someone she'd buried years ago. Her sister. Ella. Whole, smiling, holding a sunflower. Just like she was the day before the accident. The dream wrapped around Maren's heart like a chain. Ella shouldn't be here. Couldn't be. But she was. Maren, Ella said softly, stepping into the mirrored street. Her voice was warm. Human. Real. You don't have to fight anymore. Behind her, the creature grinned. She's what you want, it purred. Let go and stay. This place can be anything. No pain. No fear. No loneliness. Maren stepped forward. Her hand reached out, almost involuntarily. Ella's hand was outstretched, eyes glimmering with that familiar love. Then, Maren saw it. In Ella's reflection, the sunflower was rotting. Black petals curled inward. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes blinked sideways. It wasn't Ella. It never was. Maren screamed, pulled her hand back, and ran. The mirrored streets folded, twisted. Reflections shouted at her. Some pleaded, some cursed. One told her the exact date she would die. Another told her that she already had. But she kept running, toward the tower at the city's center. The place where the crack began. Where it could end. Inside, it wasn't glass. It was bone. Pulsing warm, humming with thoughts not her own. The walls whispered names. Her name. Over and over. She reached the top. There was the door. The door. The same one from her earliest nightmares. It waited, slightly ajar, light bleeding through the cracks. If she opened it again, it might end everything, or unleash it fully. But Maren didn't hesitate. She kicked it open. And behind it was her. Eyes wide. Sitting in her room. Awake. Breathing. But frozen. Like a paused movie. A version of her still trapped in the waking world. The dream wasn't bleeding anymore. It had replaced reality. And now there were two of her. The creature's voice returned, distant and triumphant. You never escaped. You just forgot which side of the mirror you were on. Marin stood in the doorway between realities, heart pounding, staring at herself. The version of her in the real world sat on her bed, motionless, eyes open but empty. The lights were on. The window was cracked. The world outside looked normal, familiar. But it was wrong. She felt it in her gut, like a bad note in a beautiful song. That thing in her place, it was wearing her. Her body, her voice, her life. It blinked. Slowly. Then, its head tilted toward the mirror on the far wall, as if it heard her through the dimensions. A faint smile curled on its lips. The eyes, once hers, shimmered with something ancient. Marin stepped forward. The crack behind her hissed. The creature was near again. You wanted to wake up, it whispered from the shadows. But you woke up wrong. She gritted her teeth. You think I'll let that thing live my life? It's already living it, the voice said. Better than you ever did. The hollow version of her, let's call it Mirror Marin, stood up. It stretched like a snake waking from sleep. Then it picked up her phone, dialed her mother's number, and began to laugh as soon as the line connected. That broke something in Marin. She screamed. And this time, the sound wasn't fear, it was rage. The mirror at the far wall shattered from inside, and she stepped through. She hit the floor hard. Real solid wood. Air rushed into her lungs. She was home, or something pretending to be. Mirror Marin spun around, eyes wild. You're not allowed, it hissed. I was never gone, Marin spat. They lunged at each other, not like fighters but like twin storms colliding. Skin met skin. Memories bled between them. Marin saw flashes. The fake her brushing her mother's hair, walking the dog, smiling in the mirror with teeth too perfect. But Mirror Marin was just an echo. A shape given weight. It didn't have a soul. It had stolen one. And Marin wanted it back. They fell to the ground. Marin's hand found the edge of the broken mirror. Sharp. Real. She slashed, and the fake screamed, not in pain but in fracture. Cracks spread across its skin. Light poured from the wounds. Raw dream light, the essence of the other side. Marin grabbed its face. This body is mine, she said. The thing smiled one last time. Then take the rest of the dream with it. It exploded into glass dust and whispers. She lay there shaking, covered in bleeding memories. It was over. But not undone. Because now, she could see the cracks everywhere. Behind people's eyes. In the pauses between thoughts. On the surface of puddles. Reflections didn't always match. She'd taken her life back. But something had followed her through. And it was watching. Marin didn't sleep after that night. Couldn't. Not because of fear. But because she no longer needed to. Sleep had always been the bridge. Now she was the bridge. She went back to work. Smiled at people in the grocery store. Took slow walks in the late evening sun. But the cracks were still there, faint but growing. Like a hairline fracture in her bones, deep beneath the skin of the world. At first she tried to ignore it. But then came the flickers. The first one happened in a cafe. She reached for her coffee and the cup melted. Not physically, just in her vision. It drooped like candle wax, hissed, and whispered her name in reverse. No one else saw it. She blinked, and it was normal again. Then a child on the bus stared at her too long. Eyes wide. Not blinking. He mouthed something she couldn't hear. When she leaned in, he whispered, "You're leaking." And smiled with someone else's face. She went home and locked the doors. She stared at herself in the mirror for hours. Everything looked right. But it wasn't. The reflection lagged. Just for a second. Enough to feel it, not prove it. Like her soul was a second behind her body. And then she noticed the flicker in her iris. A sliver of that dream light, silver blue pulsing. She hadn't just come back. She'd brought something with her. Maybe the creature's last words weren't a threat. Maybe they were a truth. Then take the rest of the dream with it. And she had. It lived in her now. A quiet co-pilot. Not speaking, not moving, but watching. Learning. Growing. She didn't know what it wanted. Maybe it didn't even know yet. A week later, she found someone else. Or rather, they found her. It was in the bookstore. A man brushed past her in the aisle and froze. Slowly he turned. Their eyes met. He blinked, and for the briefest second he had no face. Just a swirling blur of dream matter. When it settled, he was sweating, shaking, and staring at her like she was a loaded weapon. "You've seen it," he whispered. "Haven't you?" She said nothing. His hand trembled as he passed her a card. It was black, unmarked. But when she touched it, words bled to the surface. "The woken ones. We are the cracks. You are not alone." Maren didn't sleep for 3 more nights. Not because of fear but anticipation. The black card sat on her desk, pulsing faintly when the lights were off. Not flashing, not glowing, pulsing. Like a heartbeat. She stared at it for hours before finally whispering the words printed on its surface. "I am not alone." The lights in her apartment flickered. Then came the knock. Not on her front door but on the mirror. 3 slow taps. The sound came from inside the glass. She turned and faced herself. Only it wasn't a reflection anymore. It was her in a hooded coat. Smiling. Behind her stood others. Blurred, shadowed, uncountable. The reflection raised a hand, and the glass turned to liquid. Maren didn't hesitate. She stepped through. She emerged into a cathedral of the unseen. Not stone, not wood, but woven from memories. Walls made of old photographs, flickering screens, dreams stitched into silk banners overhead. The air buzzed with dreamlight and echoes. They were waiting for her. The woken ones. There were perhaps 24, though some flickered between forms. All of them bore the same mark, that strange shimmer in their eyes. The dreamlight. Survivors of the bleed. The man from the bookstore stepped forward. He looked older here. Tired. But solid. Human. "We've been watching you," he said. Maren raised an eyebrow. "You don't say." She didn't tell him about the entity inside her. About the flickers. About the voice that sometimes hummed lullabies in her bones. "You've crossed the veil," the man said. "You've seen the truth." She nodded. "I've seen it. I bled it." A woman stepped forward then, her left arm made entirely of dream steel, etched with symbols that swam beneath the skin. She studied Maren with sad, burning eyes. "You're changing," she said. "Aren't you?" Maren didn't deny it. "It's in me," she said. The woman nodded. "It always leaves a piece." They showed her everything. Maps of dreamscapes. Diagrams of bleeding points. Places in the world where reality was thinnest. Stories of others like her. A boy who couldn't stop dreaming while awake. A girl whose thoughts could reshape the world around her, until she forgot which world was real. And the truth. The cracks were growing. Not just because of Maren, but because the walls between realities were weakening. The more people dreamed with emotion, with fear, with belief, the thinner the barrier became. The dream had noticed them, and it was waking up. That night, as Maren lay on a bed made of ash and memory, the entity inside her spoke for the first time. Not in words, but in a feeling. Home. She opened her eyes. They glowed with silver blue light.